If you're over 60, I want you to think carefully about something. Every bite you take, every snack you reach for, even the ones proudly labeled heart healthy, they are quietly shaping the future of your health. Now, what if I told you that 9 of the most popular nuts sitting in American kitchens right now, maybe even in your pantry, might be slowly raising your blood pressure, interfering with your medications, straining your kidneys, or even triggering silent, unnoticed heart events? I know that sounds surprising, but as a heart doctor with over 30 years of experience caring for older adults, I've seen this pattern again and again. Seniors walk into my clinic confused, frustrated, and often scared. They've done everything right. No fried foods. They get their steps in. They stay hydrated. They swap out candy for nuts because that's what they've been told is smart. And yet, their heart is still in trouble. Why? Because here's the truth nobody talks about. Not all nuts are safe after 60, and when you eat the wrong kind, in the wrong amount, or at the wrong time, especially while taking certain medications, they can quietly undo everything you've worked so hard to protect. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 9 specific nuts, the exact types seniors should approach with extreme caution. Some of them may shock you, and more importantly, I'll show you what to eat instead, so your heart is truly supported, not silently sabotaged. So please, stay with me, because what you learn here might just prevent a heart attack. It might prevent an unnecessary hospitalization. It might even save your life. Now, before we dive in, I want to personally invite you to subscribe to this channel and turn on that notification bell. We share clear, honest health advice made specifically for people over 60. No gimmicks, no fads, just science-backed truth to help you live stronger, longer, and more independently. And if you find this video helpful, let us know in the comments so we can keep improving and make this content even more valuable for you. Let's begin. 1. Raw almonds. Almonds have been the go-to healthy snack. You've seen them praised in commercials, endorsed by nutritionists, tucked into lunchboxes, retirement center snack trays, and even recommended by well-meaning caregivers. And yes, almonds do have nutrients, but for people over 60, there's a side to almonds that you may have never heard. Here's the truth. Raw almonds are extremely high in oxalates, natural compounds that, in a healthy young body, are filtered out by the kidneys without much issue. But after age 60, our kidneys don't work the way they used to, especially if you're on blood pressure medication, a diuretic, or a statin. Your kidneys are already under extra pressure. When those fragile kidneys are forced to process large amounts of oxalates, like the kind found in raw almonds, they can become overwhelmed. That's when things go wrong. Let me tell you about Mr. Raymond Clark, a 72-year-old retired high school basketball coach. He came into my clinic last fall with swelling in his ankles, shortness of breath, and constant fatigue. He looked me in the eye and said, "I walk every morning. I haven't eaten red meat in 5 years. I snack on almonds instead of cookies. I thought I was doing everything right." His labs told a different story. His creatinine levels were rising, a clear sign of kidney dysfunction. His blood pressure was unstable, even on medication. What was to blame? A generous daily habit of raw almonds, often 2 full handfuls a day, which he thought was helping his heart, but it was doing the opposite. You see, when oxalates build up, they don't just affect your kidneys. They also raise inflammation, increase the risk of kidney stones, and disrupt your body's fluid balance. That makes your heart work harder, pumping against higher pressure and less elasticity in the arteries. For seniors, especially those with stiffened arteries or weakened valves, this added strain is dangerous. We made changes. Raymond switched to just a few soaked, blanched almonds per week. No more raw almonds, always with water. Within 6 weeks, his kidney markers improved, his blood pressure stabilized, and most importantly, he said, "Doc, I can breathe again." So here's what I want you to hear loud and clear. Raw almonds are not a free food. They are dense, they are potent, and for an aging body, they can quietly lead to kidney stress and cardiac overload. If something as innocent looking as a handful of almonds can tip your heart into overdrive, just wait until you hear what's hiding inside one of America's most popular salty snacks, one that most people assume is healthier than chips. Let's move on. 2. Salted cashews. They're creamy, satisfying, and often feel like a safer indulgence. Salted cashews are one of the most common snacks in American households, especially for seniors who've swapped out junk food for smarter choices. But here's what most people don't realize. Once cashews are roasted and salted, they become one of the sneakiest sodium traps in your entire pantry. Just 1 ounce, about a small handful, can contain up to 300 milligrams of sodium. And let's be honest, most people aren't stopping at just 1 handful. Now, here's why that's dangerous. After 60, your body's ability to process and eliminate sodium declines significantly. Your kidneys are slower, your arteries are stiffer, and your body starts retaining more fluid. That fluid increases blood volume, which raises your blood pressure and makes your heart work overtime. This is how I see seniors who exercise, eat clean, and avoid processed food still struggle with hypertension and even heart failure. Take Mr. Leonard Ruiz, a 77-year-old retired fire captain. He came in complaining of evening chest tightness and fatigue. His blood pressure was elevated, 168/98, despite being on medication. He hadn't touched a salt shaker in years, but his snack drawer, 2 daily handfuls of salted cashews every afternoon. No junk food, just a habit he thought was harmless. In reality, he was unknowingly consuming thousands of milligrams of sodium every week, all from a snack labeled natural. That sodium was increasing his blood pressure, thickening his heart wall, and putting him at risk for atrial fibrillation and congestive heart failure. We made one small swap: unsalted pistachios, portioned carefully and taken only with meals. Within a month, his pressure dropped, his energy came back. And his words? "Doc, I thought I was doing everything right. That's the heartbreak. You're trying. You care. But the packaging, the habits, and the silence are misleading you." So before you reach for another handful of those salted cashews, even if they come in a bag with a heart on the label, ask yourself, is this flavor worth the pressure it puts on my heart? But salt isn't the only threat hiding in your snack bowl. Up next, a nut praised for its brain benefits, but in reality, it might be disrupting your heart's rhythm. 3. Walnuts. The brain-boosting nut that may be disrupting your heart's rhythm. You've probably heard it. Eat more walnuts. They're great for your brain. And yes, walnuts are packed with omega-3 fatty acids, which are known to support brain health and reduce inflammation. But here's the side no one talks about, especially for people over 60. Too many walnuts can actually disrupt your heart's rhythm. You see, your heart isn't just a pump. It's a finely tuned electrical system. Every beat you feel in your chest is the result of signals that must stay balanced. Electrolyte balance, nervous system balance, and hormonal balance. As we age, that balance becomes more fragile, and certain foods, even healthy ones, can tip it off course. That's what happens with walnuts when they're eaten in large quantities. Something I see often among seniors who are genuinely trying to eat well. Walnuts are extremely dense in polyunsaturated fats. In moderation, that's a good thing. But in excess, especially when combined with medications like beta blockers or calcium channel blockers, these fats can overstimulate your autonomic nervous system. And that's when irregular heartbeats, known as arrhythmias, start showing up. Let me tell you about Mr. Harold Kim, a 74-year-old retired aerospace technician. He came into my clinic and said, "My heart feels jumpy, like it's racing and stopping at the same time." No alcohol, no caffeine, no smoking, and he walked daily. A clean bill of health, or so he thought. But then he told me about his walnuts. He was putting them in oatmeal, salads, smoothies, around 20 walnut halves a day. He believed he was protecting his brain from dementia. But what he was really doing, overloading his nervous system. We ran a 48-hour heart monitor. The results were clear: frequent PVCs, premature ventricular contractions, and intermittent atrial fibrillation. We cut his intake down to just 2-3 walnut halves a day, only with lunch. Within 2 weeks, his palpitations eased. By week 6, his EKG normalized. I thought walnuts were helping me think clearer, he said. Turns out, my heart just wanted a little peace and quiet. That's the lesson here. When you're 30 or 40, your heart can take a punch. But at 70, it needs precision. Even the foods that once helped you, if taken too often or in the wrong amount, can quietly overstimulate, overburden, or unbalance your most vital organ. And the scariest part, you might not feel it until something goes very wrong. So if you ever feel fluttering in your chest after a meal or strange beats when you're lying down at night, don't ignore it. Your body is whispering. And it's time to listen. Because what happens when the nut you're eating doesn't mess with your heartbeat, but instead thins your blood to dangerous levels? That's what we'll talk about next. 4. Flax seeds, the natural blood thinner that could leave you bleeding from the inside. Flax seeds are everywhere these days. You'll find them in smoothies, yogurt, oatmeal, and they're often promoted as a superfood for heart health, digestion, and cholesterol. But here's the hidden danger most seniors are never warned about. Flax seeds contain a powerful plant-based omega-3 called ALA, alpha-linolenic acid. While it's true that ALA has some anti-inflammatory benefits, it also acts as a natural blood thinner. Now, if you're under 40 and healthy, that's usually not an issue. But after 60, especially if you're taking aspirin, warfarin, Plavix, or other blood thinners, flax seeds can quietly amplify those effects, putting you at risk for internal bleeding, slow healing, and even hemorrhagic stroke. Let me introduce you to Mrs. Eleanor Briggs, a 75-year-old retired librarian. She walked every morning, stayed hydrated, ate vegetables, and proudly swapped sugary cereal for oatmeal topped with a tablespoon of flax seeds every day. My daughter said it's the heart food of the future, she told me. But she came into the clinic pale, dizzy, and slightly disoriented. Her hemoglobin had dropped. Her INR, a measure of how long it takes your blood to clot, was dangerously high. She hadn't changed her medications, didn't drink, but she was slowly bleeding internally, silently. The combination of her daily baby aspirin and her flaxseed habit had tipped her body into a fragile state where a simple bump could have triggered a life-threatening bleed. We stabilized her, removed the flaxseed, adjusted her meds. She made a full recovery, but her takeaway was powerful. I thought natural meant safe, but I was mixing medicine and food without even realizing it. That's what I want you to understand. When you're over 60, everything you eat becomes part of your treatment plan. There's no such thing as neutral food anymore. Every choice is chemistry. So before you sprinkle flaxseed on your breakfast again, ask yourself, have I talked to my doctor about this? What medications am I on? Am I respecting what my 70-plus-year-old body can actually handle? Because if a tablespoon of flaxseed can quietly thin your blood to dangerous levels, what happens when the next nut adds sugar, salt, and industrial oils, all while pretending to be heart healthy? Let's talk about that one next. 5. Nut butters. The sweet, creamy spread that quietly clogs arteries. Nut butters, peanut, almond, cashew. They seem like a smarter alternative to sugary snacks. You might spread them on toast, add them to a smoothie, or even take a spoonful straight from the jar. And because they're made from nuts, they feel healthy, natural, protein, rich. But here's the part no one talks about, especially with older adults. Most commercial nut butters are far from heart healthy. In fact, Many are loaded with sugar, salt, and hydrogenated oils, a dangerous trio that can quietly inflame your arteries, spike your blood pressure, and accelerate plaque buildup inside your blood vessels. Let's look at what's really hiding inside those jars. That creamy texture you love, often created with palm oil, soybean oil, or other hydrogenated fats, which are high in inflammatory omega-6s. The slightly sweet taste, that's added sugar, which can spike your insulin, increase fat storage, and fuel artery inflammation. And don't forget the salt. Sometimes 150 milligrams or more in just 2 tablespoons. Now, consider this. After 60, your arteries aren't as flexible. Your metabolism has slowed. Your body isn't clearing out fats and sodium like it used to. That means every spoonful is harder for your heart to process. Take Meister Samuel Delgado, a 77-year-old retired train conductor. He was managing his blood pressure well for years. Then suddenly, he came in complaining of fatigue and tightness in his chest. His labs showed elevated LDL, bad cholesterol, and increased inflammation. He hadn't touched burgers or desserts in months, but when I asked about comfort foods, he sheepishly admitted, "I eat peanut butter straight from the jar, sometimes with honey. It just feels better than ice cream." We checked the label together. It had added sugar, palm oil, and over 190 calories per serving. Samuel didn't think of it as dessert, but his heart felt the consequences. We switched him to a true natural peanut butter, 100% peanuts, nothing else, and limited him to just 1 tablespoon per day, paired with apple slices or whole grain crackers. In 8 weeks, his cholesterol came down, his energy returned, and the tightness in his chest faded. "I thought I was eating smart," he said. "Turns out, my comfort food was hurting the very thing I was trying to protect." Here's the takeaway. If you're over 60, your heart doesn't care what the label says. It cares how hard it has to work. So before you grab that spoon, ask yourself, is this really nourishing my body or just numbing a craving at my heart's expense? And if a spoonful of nut butter can quietly clog your arteries, imagine what happens when you reach for a snack that's marketed as energy boosting, but is actually a sugar-coated bomb. Let's take a look at the next one. 6. Trail mix. The sugar-coated snack disguised as heart-healthy fuel. Trail mix is one of those snacks that seems perfect for seniors on the go. A handful of nuts, a few raisins, maybe a bit of dark chocolate. It feels wholesome. It even shows up in heart health magazines. But here's what I need you to understand. Most commercial trail mixes are not healthy. They're desserts in disguise. The dried fruits, often coated in sugar or corn syrup. The nuts, roasted in cheap oils and heavily salted. The chocolate, not antioxidant rich, just processed and waxy. When you're under 40, your body can handle the occasional sugar spike. But after 60, with slower insulin response, stiffer arteries, and reduced kidney function, that sugar-salt-fat combination becomes a dangerous cocktail. Let me tell you about Mrs. Margaret Lynn, age 81, a retired school teacher. She came into my office with swelling in her feet and dizzy spells. She thought she was eating well, no fried food, lots of veggies. But when we looked closely, she had been snacking on trail mix a few times a day, believing it was healthier than cookies. The truth? Each handful packed over 250 calories, 15 grams of sugar, and 200 plus milligrams of sodium. Her blood pressure had risen to 162/96. Her A1C was edging into pre-diabetic territory. Her heart couldn't keep up. Her legs were swelling from fluid retention. We replaced the trail mix with a small, controlled blend. Unsalted raw almonds, unsweetened cranberries, and pumpkin seeds. 1/4 cup max per day, always with lunch, never late at night. 2 months later, her pressure came down, the swelling disappeared, and she said something I'll never forget. "I didn't need the sugar, I just needed the habit." That's the truth. Many healthy snacks aren't safe at all for aging hearts. not when they're repeated daily, not when they're filled with hidden ingredients that overload your system. So the next time you see trail mix at the checkout aisle, or reach for it in your pantry, stop and ask, is this fueling my heart or feeding inflammation? But we're not done yet, because the next nut, it doesn't just raise blood pressure. It slows your digestion, traps your medications, and may block your heart pills from working properly. Let's talk about it next. 7. Pistachios. The sneaky nut that slows your digestion and blocks your medications. Pistachios are small, colorful, and satisfying. There's something soothing about cracking them open, one after the other. For many seniors, they feel like a safe, natural, guilt-free snack. But if you're over 60, and especially if you take medications for your heart, I want you to hear me clearly. Large servings of pistachios can quietly interfere with your digestion and block the absorption of critical medications. Here's why. Pistachios are high in insoluble fiber and phytosterols, plant compounds that can lower cholesterol, yes, but they also slow down gastric emptying. This means your stomach takes longer to release food into your small intestine. And that's exactly where most of your medications get absorbed. In younger adults, that delay might not matter. But in an aging digestive system where everything already moves slower, this can create unpredictable absorption patterns. Some pills kick in too late, others never fully absorb, and your body is left in limbo. Let me tell you about Mr. Benjamin Cho, age 82, a retired history professor. He came in with fluctuating blood pressure. One day, it was too high, the next too low. He was dizzy, off balance, and scared. "I'm taking my meds, doc," he said. "Nothing's changed." But something had. Benjamin had recently given up dessert, good decision, and replaced it with 2 to 3 generous handfuls of pistachios every evening. It felt like a healthier habit. But what it did was overload his digestive system with fiber late at night, slowing his stomach, disrupting medication timing, and ultimately causing his blood pressure to swing like a pendulum. We scaled his intake back to a small handful, about 10-12 pistachios, always eaten with lunch and never at night. We adjusted the timing of his medications so they were no longer taken with heavy meals. Within 3 weeks, Joseph's readings stabilized. He stood taller, felt steadier, and said, "Doc, I thought I was replacing a bad habit with a good one, but I had no idea the good one had its own risks." That's the part so many seniors never hear. It's not just what you eat. It's when, how much, and what else is in your system. Your digestive rhythm, your medication schedule, your heart's workload. They're now deeply connected. And if pistachios, a healthy nut, can quietly block your medication, imagine what happens when a single nut floods your body with too much potassium and selenium, putting your heart and kidneys into overdrive. Let's talk about that one next. 8. Brazil nuts, the potassium-packed nuts that can overwhelm your aging organs. Brazil nuts. They're often labeled a superfood, high in selenium, rich in healthy fats. Recommended by wellness bloggers as a way to support your immune system and fight inflammation. But here's what many seniors are never told. Brazil nuts are incredibly nutrient-dense, dangerously so for older adults. Just one nut can provide 100% of your daily selenium needs, and just 3 or 4 nuts? Enough potassium to match a banana. Now, if your kidneys were functioning like they did at 25, that wouldn't be a problem. But after 60, and especially if you're on medications like lisinopril, losartan, or spironolactone, your kidneys are working overtime already. And that much potassium, it can tip the balance into a dangerous condition called hyperkalemia, elevated potassium in the blood, which can cause arrhythmias and even cardiac arrest. Let me introduce you to Mrs. Ruth Delgado, age 84, a retired florist. She felt fine, maybe a little more tired than usual, but nothing dramatic. Her checkup revealed something serious. Her potassium levels were elevated, and her EKG showed early signs of electrical conduction delay, a widening QRS complex. That meant her heart was starting to struggle with electrical signaling. She was puzzled. "Doc, I don't eat bananas. I watch my salt. I'm not taking any weird supplements." But when I asked about snacks, she smiled and said, "Oh, just 3 or 4 Brazil nuts with my afternoon tea. My neighbor swears by them." What she didn't realize is that her little treat was delivering massive doses of potassium and selenium every day. Combined with her ACE inhibitor, her kidneys couldn't keep up. We removed the Brazil nuts and rechecked her labs 2 weeks later. Her potassium was back in range. She looked me in the eye and said, "It's scary to think something so small could have taken me down." And she's right. That's the hard part. After 60, even small foods can have big consequences. Potency without precision is no longer safe. So if you've been snacking on Brazil nuts thinking a few won't hurt, it's time to pause. Ask, what medications am I on? What else is taxing my kidneys? Am I helping my heart? Or silently overwhelming it? Because the next nut on our list isn't high in potassium. In fact, it's low in just about everything. But that's the problem. It offers almost no true nutrition while making you think you're doing something right. Let's finish this section with a big one, mixed nuts. 9. Mixed nuts. The empty calorie trap that tricks you into thinking you're eating healthy. There's something comforting about a can of mixed nuts. A little bit of everything. Almonds, peanuts, cashews, maybe a few hazelnuts or pecans. It feels like a safe, balanced choice. Better than chips, better than cookies. But here's what you may not realize. Most store-bought mixed nuts are anything but heart healthy. They're often heavily roasted, salted, and soaked in low-quality oils. And many cheaper blends are packed with peanuts, which are technically legumes and offer less heart-friendly fat and more inflammatory omega-6 oils than true tree nuts. The result? A snack that feels smart, but delivers excess sodium, oxidized fats, empty calories, very little cardiovascular support. And here's the saddest part. These mixes fool seniors into thinking they're making progress. You're trying, you're avoiding candy, you're choosing what looks better. But what you're actually eating is a calorie-dense, nutrient-poor mix that clogs arteries, inflames tissues, and raises blood pressure. Let me share one last story. Mr. Walter Green, a 78-year-old retired city bus driver. He walked every day, avoided red meat, yet his weight was climbing. His blood pressure was elevated. His cholesterol was up. "I snack on nuts instead of junk," he said. "That's supposed to be better, right?" Every evening, like clockwork, Walter would sit down with a can of mixed nuts, labeled lightly salted and roasted with sea salt. But we broke it down. Each serving had over 180 calories, 8 grams of fat, most of it oxidized, sodium that exceeded safe daily limits. He was unknowingly eating 3x the recommended serving size, and his heart was paying the price. We switched him to a simple routine, a 1/4 cup mix of raw, unsalted walnuts and almonds, eaten with a meal, not as a graze food. No oils, no additives, no confusion. 6 weeks later, his blood pressure dropped by 15 points. He lost 4 pounds without even trying. "I thought I was eating smart," he said. "Turns out I was eating like I was 40, not 78. And that's the truth we all need to embrace. After 60, your body doesn't need more food. It needs more precision, especially when it comes to snacks, especially when it comes to nuts. That brings us to the end of the 9 nuts seniors should avoid, not out of fear, but out of clarity. Now that we've walked through the 9 nuts that could quietly be harming your heart, you might be wondering, what's left? What can I eat that's actually safe? It's a valid question, and the answer isn't to give up on nuts altogether, not at all, because when chosen wisely, in the right form, the right portion, and at the right time of day, Certain nuts can actually help stabilize your blood pressure, reduce inflammation, protect your arteries, and support long-term brain and heart health. But this is the part most seniors are never taught. Your body at 70 or 80 doesn't process food the same way it did at 40 or 50. Your digestion is slower, your kidneys are more sensitive, your heart is less forgiving, and your medications make nutrient timing even more important. So what does that mean for your diet? It means we stop treating nuts like snacks and start treating them like medicine. Let's build a smarter plate, one that supports your body, not surprises it. Here's what I recommend to the seniors I treat, and what has worked time and again to restore balance, clarity, and control. 1. Almonds, te. Only soaked, blanched, and in small portions. How much? 5 to 7 almonds per day. Form? Soaked overnight, peeled before eating. Why? Soaking reduces oxalate content and improves digestibility. Peeling removes the tannins in the skin that can irritate the gut lining. When? In the morning, ideally with breakfast and a glass of water. Almonds provide vitamin E and magnesium, 2 nutrients that help support healthy blood vessel function and reduce inflammation. But raw almonds? Too rough, too risky. 2. Walnuts, just a couple a day, treated like a supplement. How much? 2 walnut halves per day. Form? Raw, unsalted. Why? Rich in omega-3s for brain health, but too many can overstimulate your nervous system and trigger heart rhythm issues. When? With lunch, never before bed, and never in large handfuls. Think of walnuts like fish oil. A tiny dose can help, but a big one can tip your body into overdrive. 3. Pistachios, only unsalted and always with a meal. How much? 10 to 12 pistachios per day. Form? Dry roasted or raw, unsalted only. Why? High fiber slows digestion, so avoid large portions. Best when paired with a balanced meal to reduce their effect on medication timing. When? Only during lunch, never late at night. This is a portion-controlled food. Treat it like a side dish, not a snack. 4. Pumpkin seeds, just a spoonful and not every day. How much? 1 tablespoon. Form? Raw, unsalted. Why? Great source of magnesium and zinc, but also high in phosphorus, which can stress kidneys if consumed too often. When? Sprinkled on salads or oats, never eaten by the handful. Think of pumpkin seeds as a garnish, not a core food group. 5. Completely avoid these unless supervised by a doctor. Brazil nuts. Too high in selenium and potassium. Trail mix, loaded with sugar, salt, and oxidized fats. Nut butters, only okay if the only ingredient is peanuts or almonds, and even then, limit to 1 tablespoon per day. Flax seeds, only under medical supervision if you're on blood thinners. Mixed nuts, usually full of salt, oil, and empty calories. Remember, natural doesn't mean safe, and healthy doesn't mean helpful, unless it's tailored to the way your body works now. Let's get even more practical. Here are the core rules I give my patients. No grazing. Nuts are not a grab-and-go food anymore. Every handful counts. Eat with intention, only once per day, whether it's almonds in the morning or pistachios at lunch. Keep your daily intake consistent and limited. Hydrate well. Nuts are dense and dehydrating. Always drink water with your nut servings. Never at night. Late-night nut snacking can interfere with sleep, digestion, and medication timing. Always read the label. If it lists more than 1 ingredient, sugar, salt, oil, put it back on the shelf. Pair with real food. Nuts digest better and more safely when eaten with a full meal that includes fiber and hydration. Rotate your choices. Avoid eating the same nut every day. Variety reduces the risk of overload. Let me tell you about one of my patients, Mrs. Lillian Grant, an 81-year-old retired choir director. She had just recovered from a mini stroke and came to me in a panic. She'd been eating a vegetarian diet, walking daily, and snacking on nuts religiously, but she was unknowingly consuming half a cup of mixed, salted, roasted nuts every day, believing they were her heart protectors. Her sodium was through the roof. Her cholesterol was high. Her blood pressure was spiking every night. She told me, I thought I was eating clean. I feel overwhelmed. I don't know what's safe anymore. We stripped things back. We rebuilt her nut routine, not as a snack, but as a supplement. She followed the exact structure I just gave you: small portions, correct form, right timing, and variety. In 8 weeks, her numbers improved across the board. Her energy returned, and her confidence soared. I don't feel afraid of food anymore, she said. I feel in control. And that's exactly what I want for you. Because food isn't the enemy. Confusion is. Once you understand how to feed your aging body with precision, not fear, not guilt, that's when the real change begins. If you've made it this far, I want to speak to you not just as a doctor, but as someone who truly sees you. Someone who respects the journey you've been on, the things you've overcome, the discipline, love, and resilience that have carried you through decades of life. Because here's what I know after treating thousands of older adults for over 30 years. The most dangerous part of aging is not disease. It's a disconnection from our own bodies, from clarity, from the knowledge we need to adapt, evolve, and keep thriving. We are sold the idea that if something is natural, it must be safe. That if a food worked for us at 40, it must still work at 70. That if it says heart healthy on the label, we should trust it. But your body at 70 is not the same body you had at 40. It's wiser, but also more sensitive, more complex. Your kidneys now filter more slowly. Your arteries are less elastic. Your heart doesn't beat with the same ease it once did. And every food you eat now has a greater impact. Not just on your energy, but on your blood pressure, your medications, your rhythm, your recovery. This isn't something to be afraid of. It's something to understand and take control of. I've seen patients come into my office feeling defeated, tired, scared. They say things like, "Doc, I'm doing everything right and nothing's working anymore." But when we look deeper, when we simply adjust what they're eating, when they're eating it, and how it interacts with their medication, their lives start to change. Not with some fancy detox, not with expensive supplements, but with small, intelligent shifts, like replacing salted cashews with a few soaked almonds, like realizing that their evening handful of Brazil nuts was silently pushing their heart toward crisis, like understanding that more isn't always better, especially with foods as dense and powerful as nuts. You see, this isn't a story about fear. This is a story about precision, about power, and about your body's continued ability to heal, to improve, and to respond even now, because you are not broken, you are not beyond hope, and you are not too late. I've seen 65-year-olds who are frail and foggy turn it all around, and I've seen 90-year-olds sharper and stronger than people half their age, simply because they never stopped learning, never stopped listening, never stopped adjusting. Take Mr. Clarence Robinson, age 85, a retired postal clerk. He came to me on 4 heart medications. He was tired, out of breath, and convinced he'd lost control of his body. He said, "I'm not looking for a miracle. I just want to wake up in the morning and feel steady again." So we started small. We removed the nightly peanut butter toast. We replaced it with a lighter dinner and 5 soaked almonds in the morning. We adjusted his medication schedule to work with his digestion, not against it. We brought rhythm and respect back to his routine. 3 months later, Clarence came in smiling. "I'm sleeping better, I'm breathing better, and for the first time in years, I don't feel like my heart is dragging me down." That's the kind of transformation I want for you, because this isn't just about almonds or cashews or trail mix. It's about the kind of life you want to lead, today, tomorrow, and in the years still ahead. And let me be clear, you have years ahead, good years, vital years. Years where small choices can make the difference between foggy and focused, between fatigue and freedom, between another hospital stay and another afternoon laughing with your grandchildren. you have not missed your chance. If you're watching this at 60, 75, even 90, your next meal, your next habit, your next decision is a message to your body. I'm still here, I'm still learning, and I'm not done yet. So the next time you stand in your kitchen, before you reach into that pantry, before you toss a handful of nuts into your mouth without thinking, pause, breathe. Ask, is this truly helping my heart, or just a habit from a life I've already outgrown? Because food isn't just fuel anymore, it's medicine, it's a memory, it's meaning. Choose it like you choose your words, with care, with clarity, and with love. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Was there a nut on this list that surprised you? Maybe one you've been eating for years without knowing the risk. Or maybe you've already started making these changes and you've noticed a difference in how you feel. Let's support each other. Scroll down to the comments and share one thing you've learned or one small change you plan to make this week. You never know who your story might help. And if this video helped you feel more confident, more informed, or more hopeful about your health, please take just a second to comment below and let me know what I can do better next time. Your feedback matters. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to learn. And thank you for caring for your health, not out of fear, but out of love, because your heart still has time and you still have time. Let's make the most of it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I invite you to do that now. Just click that red button and tap the bell so you never miss another tip made just for you. Here on Trusted Senior Health, we talk about the things no one else does with honesty, respect, and compassion. From heart health and memory to sleep, digestion, and movement, we're here to help you live the strongest, clearest, most empowered chapter of your life. So go ahead, subscribe, comment, and join our community. You're not alone on this journey, and the best is still ahead. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.